always,
Yeah.
in every meeting, I forgot to press record.
Oh.
So I'm just starting record right now. And I just want to say to anyone who's going to watch this video, we've been going for about 20 minutes. And I just remembered to press record. So we are talking about multimedia text sets. There will be a link to this particular presentation. So we're about slide 9, I think, or I can't remember, maybe 7. Right. And so you can catch up there, and I apologize. And right now, Sarah is showing the different types of multimedia text sets. Okay, go ahead.
No worries. So just a quick glance, you can see that multimedia text sets can be used for any content area. They can be used for different age ranges, even all the way up to professional development. So let's start looking at these, and I invite everyone to share their questions as they're coming up, to share some ahas, wonderings. As I'm clicking through some of these, I want you to say what's coming up for you in the chat, okay? So here's a math order of operations multimedia text set. What do you see? What do you notice? You might be looking at the design. What do you notice in terms of the design of this text set? What do you notice in terms of the content? What are you noticing in terms?
Sing along.
Yeah, okay. So this is going to be fun. So you'll notice the verbs explain, sing along popped out as a verb. There's a rap. We know, and actually Holly and I were just talking about this before the show today, the power of song and lyric and music on a child's brain. It actually helps connect parts of the brain for memory, short-term, long-term memory recall. So the sing-along is going to be an incredible way to approach some difficult content. You'll notice that basically along with each verb, there's a link, an image. Some of this has a chat. Oh, how many of your students would instantly go to the challenge? I have a 4-year-old and she challenges me all day, every day. Mama, I can beat you. So we have kids that are like, bring it on. So we can draw them in with just the language that we use, right? I love this idea of debating. It doesn't seem like the order of operations for math would be anything debatable, but I think in choosing your content to put onto your text set, you have the opportunity to draw kids in with something that might not seem engaging initially. To take the order of operations and include a comic strip, like how fun is that? So that is just a quick glance at this one that was created for a math classroom.
We're hearing a lot of options. People are seeing that it does look like a board game. So we'll be talking about that more. So yeah, let's keep going.
You got it. You got it.
They don't all have to look like this.
That's right. Here's a completely different looking multimedia text set. And I've obviously chosen some of these on purpose. Here's a teacher I was working with, and she wanted to go deeper with some of her teaching points. She wanted to say readers read across texts to build on their ideas. Readers gather new information from different resources. So she was teaching the kids how to take what they already know about rats. They were reading they were reading this book right here, Oh Rats, which is an informational, narrative, nonfiction narrative text. It's a chapter book. It's amazing. So she was like midway through, and she wanted to add on to what they were learning. So she just curated, you can see, 3 additional resources, and then threw her objectives at the top. Readers level their resources in order of text complexity. So she wanted them to open up these 3 links and to say which was going to be most difficult for them to read or to watch. So if you look at these links, you'll notice this one is a YouTube video. This one is a Scholastic article, and this one is from The Guardian. So you can see in the text that she's selected to add on and connect to her core text that she's inviting the students to decide, which one do I need to read first? Which one feels like it's going to be the easiest for me? Some kids went directly to the video. Some kids went to the Scholastic article because they were familiar with Scholastic.
Video.
Right? I know. But it was actually really interesting because a lot of kids said, oh, I don't know what BBC is, but I know Scholastic. Right? So, but her point was like, I want you guys to figure out. And then also, as you read and watch these 3 things, what new or different information are you gaining from that? You know, how is that the same or different than what we've been reading? So very simple. She created this within, I think we did this in literally 10 or 15 minutes. Very easy, simple, approachable text set. And when we say text set, it can be, you know, 2 to 4 pieces of text.
And this sort of reminds me of a web quest, because I was a big web quester. I mean, they started in San Diego, where I live. And that's what it was. Go out, get content, maybe like create something at the end, but it was really about consumption, which is also what this is a bit.
But I love that she's got her objectives, because this really connected to her. She was doing an informational reading unit. So you can see the learning goals, and then it was literally meant as a 1 to 2 day extension kind of added in the middle of her unit. Whereas with this order of operations, you can see that this is to really, you could come back to this, right? This is something that you might present to students at the beginning of the unit. They might revisit that. Let's look at this narrative text set. This was created for, I believe, 6th or 7th grade. And this was created by a good friend of ours, Lisa Gardino, who is an incredible, she's always creating new things. But again, what are you noticing? So what is standing out to you as you look at this particular text?
So it looks the same as the first one, but totally different.
Right? The content is completely different. She's got the question right here in the middle. How are narratives constructed? So it's really going to, you can tell it's going to be like a launch into the narrative unit. So they might spend a day or 2 just kind of deconstructing the genre a little bit, right? And instead of using like images from the resources, she's used what? Icons. And I think, yeah, that's a little distinction.
And Sarah,
yeah,
someone asked something so that they can picture this. I want to address it now. So we're showing you these in Google Docs, and this is why I'm trying to bring this to the Microsoft folk. This has been pretty much only Google people doing this, and all you have to do, say you like this particular narrative. And we're going to show you some examples and places that you can find them. And then when you open it, you go to File and and go to File right now, Sarah. And then if you go to Download, you can download as a Word doc, and it shows up exactly the same. So you could take this, download it as a Word doc, and put in your own information. And we're going to talk about that, and I have a video about it later as well. Okay, keep going.
Okay, sorry, we don't need to do that right now. Okay. So I'm just kind of barely clicking on some of these to explore. Like, I'm curious, what resources is she using? Because it doesn't say. So I'm looking here, and here she's got a YouTube link, a BuzzFeed. She's found this great website she likes. Here's another YouTube. So it's kind of neat just from my own experience. I'm like, ooh, what are the actual links she's using, right? Okay, so let's move on. Here's another one that is, again, different content. This one is potentially more humanities, right? But you can see that the design, the tone, the color choices that are being used, black, white, gray, kind of for effect. So what else is coming up as you look at this? This one, we were really intentional with putting in some thinking questions in the middle. Now, when you're designing a text set for your remote classroom, you might have a Padlet here and potentially, or a Flipgrid with some of these questions and say, please respond to some of these questions. In class, I might say, take a couple days. We're going to discuss this as a group on Friday. Or even we'll have a Google Meet or a Zoom meeting on Friday to just, a Teams meeting to share your thinking and what's surfacing for you as you click into these resources. So I want you to imagine not only the design of the text set, but what might the delivery of this text set feel like. And just, again, of course, someone wanted to screen share. So I'm just curious what is surfacing as you all look at this one. Anything new or different? Kind of similar. You could really, to me, this really stands out in terms of the thinking in the middle, the questioning throughout. Imagine yourself at the March on Washington. What was the impact of the Montgomery bus boycott? What can you infer from this image? Let's talk about an image as being an important type of text, right? When you think about multimedia, sometimes we overlook the power of just having students linger on one particular image. If I were to have a student open up this image and just stare at it for a little while, like, what information can you glean from just a primary source, an image itself, right? And I think that sometimes we zoom past, kids have so many images coming at them all the time. So sometimes it's helpful to teach them to slow down, to analyze. So, you know, just including an image as a type of text, I think is really powerful. So, okay, let's move on. We have one or two more I want to share with you. Mind Brain Education. This one was designed by Kelly for a professional development session.
Ooh.
Okay, yes, ooh. Again, similar. But what else is coming up for you as you look at this?
I want to do it.
Some of the big questions. What are some strategies for supporting all learners in the classroom? Yes, please. Yeah, so I love this idea of play. I might go to play first. I might go to wonder first. Kelly has also included some kind of like cursory, you know, thinking. Oh, I love this. Through your child's eyes. This is going to be so fun. If I was in a professional development session, and just so you know,
look, Shelly, 5 more
you
minutes.
love that one? I know, you've got to love that UDL one about bowling. The 710.
I love that bowling one.
Love it too. It's so good. She inspires me every time I listen to that. But in a professional development, we might do the same thing. Give them, you know, 8 minutes, explore, talk. Like, we don't have to be the experts all the time, right? Let the cool media out in the universe be the experts. Bring these people into the room. Okay, so here's another one, and I've included this because I want you to be thinking of the age that you teach. Potentially, this could be for younger learners. And I want you all to take a look at the directions. Explore the links below in any order you wish. Be sure to write any new knowledge, questions, wows, and wonders in the response column on the right. I'm not asking for a right answer. Like, did you really read this article on invisible alligators? I don't know. You better answer the question that I've given you. It's like, no, I trust that you're going to, you know, do some exploration of this content. And I want to know what stands out to you. That goes back to our purpose. Am I sparking curiosity? Am I building background knowledge? I also don't care what order they go in. I've picked, you know, my 6 favorite resources. Just go for it. I love Wonderopolis, you know, so I might go there first. So I have to just tell you, we got a great question in our Facebook group recently about multimedia text sets. A really wonderful teacher said, I just have some questions. How do I hold kids accountable? How do I know if they're really like reading the resources I've linked up? And we said, you know, maybe you don't need to know the extent of all of that. Or maybe if you leave it open enough, they'll share with you organically. And maybe that is enough. Or it's what you do with it next. Maybe that matters the most. So how are you using this text set connected to the rest of your unit? Or how have you tucked that into your HyperDoc in a way that fully gets them ready to take on the unit? You know, that kind of thing. So we love, if you're going to ask for a response, just kind of leaving it open. I think that's the point. That's part of the purpose of building something like this, is that you're really
also building a culture of there isn't one right answer.
Right.
It's very hard to change that when you get a 12-year-old. If it's not started in that first through, you know, or great, we have international here. So I'll say age 6 to 11, we really have to start making them think around the possibility of one right answer.
Absolutely. And hopefully you can see in just these handful of examples that the game board really kind of sets a tone, like, go for it, you know, just go play, go click in, click around. It's always fun to step back as the teacher and see what resources kids open up first. I like to stand in the back of the room if all the devices are facing a certain way, and I look to see, okay, about a third of my class went to this one YouTube link first. Okay, so what does that tell me about my learners? Or I have 1 or 2 kids that do want to actually sit and take in one article and read it to the core, because they are my deep, deep readers and my deep thinkers. They don't really care. They can tune out all the others and just zoom in. I'm a shopper. I'm going to open up like 6 tabs, and then I'm going to decide which one I want to look at first. But by presenting,
let's try one, just because we're getting like over the half hour.
Yeah, yeah. Let's do it. Let's do it. So we wanted to give you a chance to try this out on your own. So on the next slide, you'll notice, oopsies, maybe not. Hold on.
No, it was there. Oh, no, go to the Gen Z. You'll see Gen next in between refugee.
There we go. Okay.
Oh, that's good. Okay, so this one actually, I'm going to take over for a second. This is one I use in professional development to kind of set the tone for why. And you guys might have seen this yesterday if you were with me and I talked about Gen Z learners. So if you go to Infuse link /Gen Z1, you will open up this text set. And I'm going to give you a second to get there. And once you get there, I'm just going to give you, normally I give 8 and sometimes I give 12 minutes, depending on what I want people to get from this, but we're just going to give you 4. And this is how it would play out in the classroom. I would say to kids, okay, you've got 8 minutes or 10 minutes and just go explore. But I say this to the kids, but by the end, or the teachers that I'm working with, but by the end of the 8 or 10 minutes, you have to have watched The Future of Work. That's all I'm going to ask. Mm-hmm. And so you can go and explore. So go ahead and open this up, and I want you just to see what it's like, but I want to give you a little information first. At first, you're not going to be comfortable with this. You're going to be like, I don't want to watch this, but in about a minute and a half, you're going to start to really like it. And you're going to see what you go through. So go ahead, and I'm going to put a timer on my phone, except I don't have my phone, but I have access to a clock. At 3:40 Pacific time, we're going to come back and we're going to talk about what it was like to experience learning in this. So go click in any order you want. The only thing I would like is that you have at least opened The Future of Work. You don't have to watch it. We don't have enough time. So I'm going to put on some music. Okay, Google, play Taylor Swift on Spotify. That's all I can do.
Okay, playing Taylor Swift on Spotify.
Sorry if you don't like Taylor. Oops, something went wrong. Let me try Alexa. Actually, I should find my phone.
I can do it on mine.
Okay.
Something went wrong. When you're ready, give it another try.
Don't you love our Australian accent?
Yes.
She reads to me the Australian news too. I'm very fond of it.
You guys get whatever I opened up to.
Can you please show the link again?
So it's right there. Darby did it, or Kelsey Darby, or it was.
Here's the link. It's at the top. Can you see
it? I think they got it. The infographic doesn't work right. So if you are new to Google Docs, it doesn't work quite like Microsoft Word. And first, it's not an infographic; it's an exploratory board. Not a big deal. But with Google Docs, and you might want to show this, Sarah, you have to click on the link, and then it comes down below it. That's something that Google doesn't do as good as Microsoft. So Microsoft opens right to it.
That's awesome.
Oh, that one. Sorry about that. I don't know. I'll go look at that. So thank you for letting me know that. It might be a problem. I'll go look and see if I can fix it in real time, which is why these are amazing. Yeah, it looks like the infographic link no longer works, so I'll have to update that. Thanks, y'all. That's a bummer. So believe it or not, there's only like a minute left. So okay, so you'll notice that I just want to explain something that would be happening in the classroom right now. So a lot of times people are like, this is great, kids have to watch videos, I want them to put on their headphones. And I think I was the same way. But what I found when they put in their headphones is I wasn't really sure what they were listening to. I could see the video on the screen, but who knows what it was. And if I had them not use a headphone, then I could hear where they were. And they knew and they learned to adjust their sound so they weren't messing with other people's kind of hearing space. And I walked around the classroom and it, like, I don't know if any of you watched the one with Ellen where she's like, oh yeah, phone book or whatever. I'd walk around and I'd be like, isn't that funny? And when they would get to the one where the kid's coming out and taking is using the iPhone in a new way, I might walk over and talk to them about that and be like, is that how it felt when you were a kid? And it gives me an opportunity to really be a facilitator on the side as we're experiencing and getting to know this information. So in a professional development where I would use this, I've got to talk to them about who our kids are and why we need to change. But instead of me sitting up there with a slideshow going, Gen Z is blah, 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 and then words coming across the screen, I have them get into the content this way. And then when I talk about the future of work, and that's why I asked them to watch that one, when I start talking about this, everyone is way more engaged than me just making you care about Gen Z. Some of these things make you just want to learn more. And so that's how it plays out in a classroom. So in the middle, there is a thing that says, it asks you questions. How did it feel to work in a multimedia tech set? So I want you to click on that link and it's going to take you to a Padlet. And Padlet's not a free tool. You do have to pay for it, but it's one of those tools that I really, really value. So I do actually pay for it it's one of the only apps I pay for. I want you to go ahead and answer on here. How did it feel? And I see Tyler said, depending on my mood, I might rather read the text. And that's certainly true. I tried to put some text in there. I recently had to take out one part of the text, but maybe I would, as a teacher, need to add more text because maybe my students would let me know that. Most people like the choices. Most students really like the ability that they feel like they have control. They don't really have control. I've given them the things they have to learn. But it feels like they have control.
Yep. That's a sneaky little teacher trick. Organized chaos. I'm so happy that you mentioned too the device thing about like listening out loud. One of the things that we like to do in a classroom, which isn't our scenario currently, is have like 2 to 3 students per device. Because there's something magical that happens when you have a couple kids hovered over a resource. They're pointing to the words in the text. They naturally start talking with each other. And then it's that collective learning. And really what we're doing right now is collective learning. Everyone kind of engaged in that text set individually. And then now we're kind of getting the collective thought, which is amazing. But in a classroom setting, we do like to have students share devices. And we always say, whoever has the least amount of battery, close your computer and go huddle around the other. And yeah, because we want kids talking. We don't want them one-to-one consumption. That's not going to be healthy for anyone. And they're going to learn more through that dialogue with each other as they're taking in these texts, which is awesome. So I'm glad you kind of brought that up.
I asked too if like you should make copy of the videos, put them in Google Drive so they're not going out to YouTube. Absolutely, that's a great thing to do, or stream, or whatever your tool is. And also, there's a couple links that didn't work, which I didn't know about, so I'm really grateful to all of you. But someone else asked, let me see, I lost it now, sorry.
Yeah,
Would it make sense to save a copy or whatever? So if you want a copy of this, you can have a copy, but this is what I wanted to talk about. So when I go and I present at schools and I use this, I have a link to this. So the whole time you guys were linking on this, I was having notifications come up saying your link's being linked to your link's being linked. And I do that because when I leave that school, at 3 o'clock or whatever, I notice at about 8 o'clock, all of a sudden, your link's being linked, your link's being linked. And if I come back the next day, I'll ask teachers, like, how come my link was going up? And they're like, oh, I was showing my husband the future of work. Oh, I showed my kid the Ellen video. And so, like, it's not just something that that's only for that class. And that's the best thing ever, is when people take the things that we're talking about in a professional development and take it to their dinner table. That's what I wanted as a teacher, and that's what I want as a teacher trainer.
Ding, ding, ding. That's success, right? When it's officially transferred over into the student, the adult, whoever the learner is. That's amazing. Do we want to keep going, Holly, just for the sake of time? Because we could obviously
yes, please.
talk so much more. There's so much to talk about. So just a little background on how multimedia text sets came to be. We didn't create them, but what we love about them is that they are centered on the research we've done around cycles of learning. And this is really what learning used to look like in my classroom. In many classrooms, I would give a little explanation of content, and then I would ask the kids to do something, usually in the form of homework, and then I would give them a project if I was feeling really fancy, or a test. And that was my way of knowing if they learned what I explained to them a day or two or a week or two prior. Great. I felt like I was doing a good job. That's the cycle that I kind of followed. Well, there's been a lot of research around, and we did most of our connecting around this with Ramsey Muslim. If you know him, he teaches high school science in the Bay Area, California. And he started doing some research around what would happen if you flip that notion. What if students did some exploration first? And what might learning look like if we don't assume that they know nothing and that I just need to come right out of the gate and start explaining content? So that there's this cycle where really kids can and should be exploring on their own, because they already know stuff. So we want them to add on to their bank of knowledge they already have before I come in and say, here's what I would like to teach you. So text sets really came out of this passion for encouraging students to explore something first, to dig into, build background knowledge, build curiosity. Those are like the two fundamentals. Now I'm going to maybe add on, after finding out what maybe questions you have, like what is your inquiry around that? I don't want to just assume that you know nothing or you don't care at all. I want to base my teaching off of what you're interested in learning more about. So that was a huge shift for us. So we put that explore, explain, apply into our basic HyperDoc template. So what you're looking at right now is the basic HyperDoc template that we created. And you can see that explore, explain, apply tucked right into that template itself. Oftentimes we love to start with some sort of engagement, and then we'll go deeper into the lesson with the share, reflect, extend. Not every lesson has all of these parts. We also have an explore, explain, apply only template, but the purpose and what has really shifted learning and instruction for us was really focusing on that explore. What does exploration of content look like before I jump in and teach my lesson? So like Holly mentioned before, you can tuck a multimedia text set into a HyperDoc lesson. So it could be explore might say, click here to explore this text set. Or the explore can come entirely on its own, like with those text sets that I shared with you guys that are more unit-based. So you would typically start a unit with that deep level exploration of content through the use of multimedia text sets. So hopefully that helps you to see kind of where the exploration fits in to lesson design. So when might I create a multimedia text set? Here's one that Lisa and our colleague Scott Padway created a couple of years ago. But I think what's also nice about that is it can be easily revised, right? As especially with history, things are changing all the time. So I might design a multimedia text set if I just want to package the content up for students. Simple. I want to be in charge of that, like Holly said. Like the kids are in control of maybe parts of their learning, but I've taken the lead in determining what content I want to hand over to them. Instead of just sending them aimlessly onto the internet, I've went ahead and packaged that up. I want my students to build background knowledge beyond a textbook or potentially extend lessons. So a lot of times we'll give a text set at the beginning of the unit, but we find students revisit that kind of at the end of a unit to go back and add on even more, revisit, go deeper, and then even just to prepare students. Some of the benefits that we saw, and this is why we consider this our gateway, is like helping us to check so many of those teacher boxes, right? Like we talk about our teacher manifesto and how there's so much going on that we're trying to teach. You know, do I have PBL? Do I have, you know, all these things. So we found that teaching with multimedia text sets helped us develop that inquiry. Like, no, you guys decide what you're curious about. You tell me what questions, ahas, wonderings you have. You guide where we're going next with this unit based on what you just saw, read, heard, you know. We really want to build that curiosity. Like we talk about that, but I didn't know how to do it as a teacher. Like I knew I wanted my students to be curious, but I wasn't quite sure how to do it, right? Like how could I create a lesson that really truly sparked that? And like you said, Holly, when you give a text set to some students, then you step back and observe. And that's where you see the curiosity happening. Oh my gosh, they still have that tab open, you know, after they've closed out and learned what, you know, they've learned the piece, but they're still wondering more. That's what we want. And that student agency is like, you're in charge of this. Like you go where you want to go here. You decide what texts are going to be at your level. You decide how, you know, I love how somebody shared that it depends on what kind of mood they're in, right? I love that. Like, oh, I'm in an article kind of a mood. Oh, I'm in a video kind of mood. Yeah. You know, I love that. I want some quiet learning. I'm just going to read. Oh, I need some engagement. I'm falling asleep here at 6th period. I need a video to come at me and like wake me up. So you be in charge of that. And then, of course, the idea of UDL. I mean, we could go in depth around this content, this idea of how can a text set really tap into all the needs of all learners. But obviously, if I need to watch a video, but I can press closed captioning, and then I have the information coming at me in different ways. When you talk about the representation of information, which is one of the key tenets of UDL, which is Universal Design for Learning, you instantly are presenting content in multiple ways to help every learner find a way that is best for them. So,
Sarah, we're getting a lot of questions, and as we're kind of running out of time, because of course we went, you know, we over prepared.
Yes.
We are in our next slide going, I don't know if it's next slide, but we're going to be showing you some examples, and people are like jonesing for those in the chat.
Yep.
The doc that has the example. So if you have the slide deck, if you don't, I'll put the link in the chat right now. And as Sarah talks about this transformation, but it's going to come. And if you just go to that slide really quick, Sarah, and then come back so I can show them. So
when you type in bit.ly/explore MMTS, multimedia text sets, that link will send you to a doc that looks like this. And this is a collection of text sets. So if you teach, you know, history, you might find one there that looks interesting to you. So the doc looks like this. And this is just the beginning of us starting to curate these. Multimedia text sets can be found all over the place, but what we would encourage you to do is go shopping, find one that looks like it could fit for your content, or you're just drawn to it because of the design. I mean, I know tons of teachers that will just take this mind brain text set and just recreate it because they like the design. I like the icons. I like the simplicity, you know. So as you're shopping, you might shop for content and design. Find one you like, make a copy of it, and there you go. You're ready to remix. Now, we always encourage everyone to check links. You never know if it's going to be either active still or appropriate for your students. But the beauty of file make a copy or file download really is that you can start to personalize this for your classroom.
And that's what I did with Gen Z. I took this one, this is the one, and I just made a different blue in the background, and I took out the, that's all you do.
That's perfect. You're going to change out your Padlet for your Padlet. You're going to switch the color. You're going to change out some of the verbs. The verbs, too, we didn't really talk about that either, was really an attempt for us to look at depths of knowledge. Like, are we only having kids recall, or are we having them, begin to question things and begin to infer? And, sometimes we just want you wondering, just think, just consider, have you ever pondered this before? Those kinds of things. Comparing is high level critical thinking. So absolutely, we want you to take any of these text sets that look like it could work for you in your classroom and make a copy of it and begin changing it out so that you can use it immediately. I know, go ahead, Holly, I can tell you.
The culture that HyperDocs has created is this one around hat tipping to the person who made it. So if I open the refugee one and made it Gen Z, and you'll notice this on Gen Z, I say thanks to Lisa Heifel and so-and-so, and there's another name, but customized by Holly Clark. So I'm always giving reference to the person who originally made it.
Absolutely. So you'll see that down below. It's like who created the text set, recreated by, adapted by. Yeah, we encourage you to use any of these to make your teaching just easier, better. But we encourage you to give credit. That's what we would want our students to do. So should we just we got to keep going. We could do this for a long time. Do you want to talk about the video that you've shared?
Yeah, so if you want to know how, it was pretty easy. You download, make it a Microsoft Doc, or you can start to build it in OneNote. But I made a tutorial on how to take it from a Google Doc and where to find them, and then change them into Microsoft products. So if you want to share with other staff members, some of this we're not going to be able to get to because we have 5 minutes left, but you can go through and click around. I saw that somebody said this one isn't working. We'll go in and fix that. That's the beauty of having a live document. But the most important part is to really, and I think Sarah talked about this, but they have at HyperDocs Co, they have a whole website.
Look, yes, we're so excited to share this. So beyond shopping on our samples here, we want you to not only shop and create your own, but we want you to learn more. Today is an hour, but we barely scratched the surface, right? So we've been designing an academy, if you will, a website, and we're starting to build out these courses. And so if you're new to HyperDocs, there's tons in here to get you going. If you're just struggling with remote teaching, or you're getting a hang of it and you want to push yourself to try new things, you can go there. But the getting started piece is where we've tucked in some of this learning about text sets and HyperDocs. So you'll notice 2 of these courses. Once you click Explore More, I don't think I'm signed in, so it's going to not let me go there. But each of these courses has multiple lessons within. So you'll go into this one thing here, and it's going to show you, this one has 5 lessons plus a quiz. These are all up and running, ready for you guys to dig deeper into this understanding of text sets, and then also how they connect with HyperDocs. So you guys, there's so much on here. Please, please, please visit HyperDocs Co. You will have to sign in with an email address, and then you're good to go. The lessons are currently free. We want you to access them, share them. We're so excited to put some of that learning out there. I know professional development can be expensive, and so this way you can do it when you're ready. In your pajamas, whenever is good for you, although that's the new norm, right? We're all doing everything in our pajamas these days. So yeah, definitely check out HyperDocs.co, and I've called out 2 of the courses specifically for text sets.
And I just have to say how happy I am right now, because it's been my one thing since I've kind of partnered with Microsoft a bit as a Googler pretty much not like a Googler, but like a person who's been known for Google. And now I'm doing this kind of Microsoft thing. This is all I wanted to bring to the Microsoft world is you guys need to be doing this too. And you guys are seeing the power of it and you're excited. So like this makes me so happy. I do want to mention that this is a 4-part series and I'm doing it over and over again throughout like the next however many weeks. And I'm going to be doing it EU friendly time and Australia friendly time so that we don't leave anyone out, because although some of our Scotland people are here, it's midnight and they can't ask their other teachers to come to this. So we'll have those friendly times coming up.
That's awesome. I love that. So I don't know, Holly, if any other questions came up in the chat, but I know we have to keep going here.
No, but someone said, well, we're done kind of. Oh, by the way, if you have any questions and it's not office hours time and I'm not around, you can head over to EdSpace and leave a question over there. Just go to the Infused Classroom chat. And if it's hard to find, I'm going to put a blog post up about it. So you can contact me at any time that way and I can show you a tutorial. It makes a really good place to do this. But we will have these over and over, as well as the HyperDocs Academy being someplace to go. So when you go there and it's all Google, just forget it. And someone just said, and I love this, Sarah. They were like, yeah, but we have the bells and whistles of Microsoft. Yes.
That's awesome. Immersive reader. I mean, yes, you do. And that's what's so great is you can take ours and then customize it for yourself and then start creating your own and share them back. Because there's so many Microsoft users out there that are also ready to dig into this. So it's so exciting to see. It's the pedagogy. We all have the same. It does not matter what your tool or suite is. It is the pedagogy that matters the most. And that's where we can all come together and share best practices.
So people are coming into this now because it's time for office hours, and you are welcome to stay for office hours. Those of you in Scotland, I'm going to make you leave. You can come to another office hours another time. You need to go to bed. But anyone else who wants to stay around, I'm going to be here for an hour, pretty much answering questions. And it can be around multimedia tech set. Sarah has a baby that she has to go pick up right now. So I'm going to let Sarah go and say thank you. And I will stay here and we can answer any questions. So Sarah, you are free to go. Thank you.
Thank you so much, you guys. I'm so grateful for you all coming together. This is good conversation. I wish I could have read all the chat, but I was there in spirit. That's okay. If we could multiply ourselves. But definitely we'll see you online. Join our Facebook community, start asking questions. We want to build our Microsoft Teams group. You know, we're all in. So it's pedagogy, good teaching, and that's what we're all about. So have a good day, night, morning. I'll see you next year. Bye. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you, Sarah. It was fantastic. Sarah is on Twitter, so let me put her thing here. And it should also be on the slide deck if you have that. I'm going to, hold on. There we go. And I'm going to see if I can change this to make it so we can just have, and maybe, so I'm going to stop recording first and foremost. So we can get that.